It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That, of course, classic King Kobra, a song called Take It Off. And on the line, the legend himself, the great Carmine Appice. Carmine, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excellent, man. Well, Carmine...
Take it off, huh?
Hell yeah.
I haven't heard that one in a while.
It's good stuff, man. I mean, there was always that dirty quality. Like, you guys were sort of like the upper crest of the dirty rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we certainly were.
Definitely.
And that song was inspired by Gene Simmons.
Oh, really?
To say take it off. It's fine.
Sure.
You know, because we were looking for a new record deal, and he we were looking at him he had a label at the time, and he was a friend of mine, and that's what he said to me. He said, just do it, you know.
Sure.
Don't worry about anybody. So we did it, and it came out great.
Absolutely, man. Well, speaking of things that came out great, King Kobra is back, slightly retooled lineup from the glory days, but 2 records in a row that have really kicked ass, man. The brand new one, simply called 2, excellent record.
Yeah, thank you. You know, when we started doing this, and while we were into it, we said, you know, we got to make this better than the last one in all levels, in the songwriting and the lyrics, the arrangements, the production, everything, the playing. We got to surpass what we just did, because that last album was a pretty damn good album. You know?
Sure. And go ahead.
You know, all the material on this new album is all fresh, all fresh from now. On the other album, we had some material that we had leftover stuff from the 80s, because, you know, Frontiers is notorious for wanting it to sound like the 80s.
Sure.
You know, and that last album sounded like the 80s. This album sounds like the 80s, but it has some overtones of some 70s in there, and you know, just not totally 80s, you know. But
sure.
Mostly 80s sounding.
Sure.
Today's sonics, you know.
Absolutely. But and the thing that's cool about this record is it's really got some really hard hitters, maybe even harder than back in the glory days. I'll point to songs like Knock Them Dead or Hell on Wheels.
Oh, yeah, no.
You know,
I mean, for me, I think this record is better than anything we've ever done, even in the old days. You know, everybody loves Ready to Strike, but I think the last album was better than Ready to Strike, tell you the truth.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's one of the cool things about King Kobra is it's a band that never really had a bad, you know, like that bad we're trying to change our sound thing. It just seems like, you know, at the time when the style sort of drifted was the same time that you guys all drifted apart and did different things.
Right. Yeah, we did, and you know, some of us was successful and some of us weren't, but kept playing and went on to do different things.
Sure.
And then I think with the addition of Paul Shortino to the band, it gave us something that we were lacking in the 80s, which was a tough, gritty, tough singer. You know,
mm-hmm.
I mean, we had a great singer, but
Sure.
It wasn't tough. Obviously, it's more turned into a woman. You know,
Right.
you know, so it wasn't. I always wanted to sing wimpier kind of songs, you know, more poppy, wimpy songs. You know, Paul is you know, I did some gigs with Paul for this thing called Rock for Christmas, and we were on a bus ride from Salt Lake City to Vegas, and on the whole bus ride we played guitar and sang everything from Beatles to Rolling Stones to Temptations and all Motown, and Paul was singing all of it. He could sing anything.
Sure.
I heard him sounding like the Temptations, sound like a big black guy. Then I heard him sound like Paul McCartney. You know?
Right.
I said, man, dude, I didn't know you could sing so good. I always thought you had a good voice, but, you know, in Rough Cut, he was always, you know, the music wasn't that good. You know, the band wasn't that good, you know, in my opinion. And
Sure.
in his opinion, too. You
Okay.
know, but he's a tremendous singer, and I think his addition to the band really, really, you know, upped it all, you know, because he not only is a great singer, a good lyricist, he's a really great engineer, studio engineer. Him and Dave did a lot of the engineering on the record too.
Sure. Now, how have fans reacted to Paul? Because, like you said, he does add a different, grittier edge than, you know, the classic stuff.
I'd say out of 25 people, you might get one person that says, you know, they'd rather have Mark free, you know.
Okay.
So
sure.
I'd say, you know, 4 in 100, you know.
Yeah.
But most other people think that Paul is awesome.
Sure. Definitely.
I mean, like last year when we did that song, Monsters and Heroes, all about Ron and James Dio, you know, it's great lyrics, really great lyrics, the way it was put together. What a great tribute song for Ronnie, you know?
Sure. Definitely was, man. Well, Carmine, one thing I was curious about, the new album is simply called King Kobra 2, and yet there's already been a King Kobra 3 and a King Kobra 1. So how did you end up with 2?
Well, that's exactly how we ended up with it. We never had it. We had a 3. We had all the other albums had names. And then the last album was King Kobra. That was like the first King Kobra on Frontiers, the first King Kobra with Paul. You know?
Okay.
So I said, look, let's just call it 2. You know? Because, you know, people are going to wonder, why are we calling it 2? Yeah, we already had 3 and we had 1, you know? So that's it. That's why, because we thought, I thought it would be pretty clever and it would be a good thing to talk about in these kind of interviews and stuff.
Sure. Well, there you go. You got me.
Yeah, so far I got everybody.
Oh, nice.
Everybody I talked to says the same thing. And, you know, you got to have something to talk about. You know?
Sure.
You can't just, okay, why'd you call it Hell on Wheels? Well, because the song's called Hell on Wheels.
Right.
You know?
Right. Sure.
You know, why'd you call it Have a Good Time? Or, you know, any of the song names. The Hammer, and the Hammer Comes Down. You know,
sure.
I thought it was a good title from the song. At least this has a bit of a story to it.
Right. Definitely. Now, Carmine, much like you, Dave Henzerling always seems to have an assortment of projects going on. You know, is it hard to corner him, just like I've got to imagine it's hard for you to schedule time to not only time but also focus on King Kobra as an entity?
Well, sometimes it gets a little difficult, but since we did most of this album by the internet, the only time we were in the studio together was when I was in the studio with Paul, either doing his vocals or he was in the studio with me doing all the drums. Right? But otherwise, Dave did all his guitars at home at his leisure. Johnny Rod did the bass at his leisure in Vegas with Paul. You know, and sometimes Dave was there at one point after we did the photo shoot and the video. And, you know, I was with Paul a bunch of times doing his vocals. Otherwise, Paul did his vocals. I did percussion on my MacBook.
Okay.
And I sent it to Paul, and he inserted it. You know, so we did it on our own time. It took a while. I mean, it really took a while. It took about 9 months for us to really, 8 months for it to be completed, you know?
Sure.
But, and then it was sent to Germany to be mixed.
Okay.
You know? Same as the video. We did the video in Vegas, and we sent it to my friend in Spain to edit it.
Oh, wow.
Did you see the video?
I have seen the video, yeah.
And that's an awesome video.
It is. I mean, it's very cool.
Because of the people who were in it. You know, I don't know if you noticed Carrot Top and Vinnie Paul, and this guy Danny has a hit show called Accounting Cars, and Ron Keel and Ron Jennery and Zach Wilde and Ace Frehley, you know.
Yeah.
So that was all good. But the great thing I love about the video, besides that's a good time song, I think it's a great song, is that you have to watch it many, many times to really see everything.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's so many things going on. Like on the bottom screen, there's a chick there that has these big, fake boobs that are like gigantic watermelons.
Right.
Okay? You can't tell on the first viewing, you know?
Right.
You can't tell, oh, that was Carrot Top. Oh, my God, that was Vinnie Paul playing the drums for a second.
Right.
Or that was Ron Jeremy. That guy from that TV. You know, you have to, really see it a bunch of times in order to catch everything that's going on.
Sure. And that plays right into the fun thing that you guys are trying to do with the band, is to keep it fun and interesting and not dull.
Have a good time. That's the name of the song. Have a good time. You know, and that's why we picked that particular video. We could have done a heavier, coolish, moody, video with like Deep River,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and done that. But you know, we just thought that King Kobra's always been a good time band, you know.
Sure.
And that good time, have a good time, was reminiscent of like my days with Rod Stewart, you know,
Sure.
Hot Legs and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And those were all always good time videos and good time stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why we did that video in that way. And because of the title, we figured bringing all these different people in, you know, singing. It's an easy thing to sing. Have a good time. You know?
Right, sure.
and everybody's singing it, you know.
Definitely. Well, Carmine, for you professionally, it's now been 45 years. I don't know if you're even aware that that's the actual number, but your first thing is, unless I'm missing something, came out in 67. You know,
that's right.
45.
Right around now, coming into July, was when we released "You Keep Me Hanging On" and hit the charts.
Right. So after 45 years, what comes to mind?
My book I'm writing for VH1 Books.
Okay.
Because I'm going through a lot of the stories, and my co-writer, Ian Giddens, who wrote the Nikki Sixx book, The Heroin Diaries.
Okay, cool.
He wrote the book with me, and it's like, you know, like I got a chapter today, so I'm reading through it, and I want to make sure all the details are right.
Mm-hmm.
I go through it, and if they're not right, I fix it, and I send it back to him with red.
Okay.
And he fixes it up, you know, sends it back to me. We're about 7 chapters in. We're trying to get this finished by the end of September.
Okay.
You know, and I still don't have a title.
Well, I'm sure the title, you know, as somebody that's written 2 books myself, I can definitely tell you that is always the hardest part. It's easy to come up with the words to fill it, but it's the hardest to find the right title.
Yeah, I know. It really is. So my writer keeps saying, "Don't worry, something will hit us as we're writing."
Yep.
We haven't got anything so far.
There'll be a phrase or something that you say in the middle of it that'll just make sense. It'll encompass all of it.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, Carmine, one of the things I did want to ask you is, you know, it has nothing to do with King Kobra, but since we're talking a little bit about your career, one of the things that came out about a year ago was Eddie Trunk saying that he was close to getting, quote unquote, all parties together for this Blue Murder tour and album. Whatever happened with that, or was there anything to that?
Unbelievable. Every interview I do includes this.
Okay.
You know, and so many people want to know about Blue Murder. It's unbelievable. It just never happened. I mean, 2 years ago, me and John and Tony played together, and it sounded great. When he quit Thin Lizzy, I thought he quit so we could actually do Blue Murder. And then it never got off the ground. It never got out of the gate. Nothing happened. You know, and then Tony went and joined Kenny Wayne Shepherd. You know, I kept doing what I was doing.
Sure.
And, you know, now even like I had an email from John last week because I went on Eddie Trunk's show to promote the King Kobra record.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me that there's a new remastered Blue Murder record by this English company being released worldwide. I said, "Oh, wow, I haven't even gotten that one." And so he said, "Well, I have a couple. I'll give you one." So he gave me one. And I listened to it, and, you know, and I haven't listened to a Blue Murder record in years and years and years, 20 years.
Okay.
You know, I listened to the whole thing, and I said, wow, you know, what a great record this is. So I felt inspired to write John an email that tell him how proud I was to be involved in this record and how tremendous we were as a band.
Sure.
And the vocals and the songs and the sound and the production and just everything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Playing with Tony, playing with him, you know. So he emailed me back and said that, wow, you know, I haven't even got a copy of this either. I said, wow, that's unbelievable.
Sure.
So then I went on Eddie Trunk's show again. I went on Friday night, then I went Monday. And over the weekend, I had told John that, in the second email, that Eddie, you know, just would love to see this band get back together, you know. And he said, well, you know, we got to do when you're in L.A. again, we got to see if we can get you, me, and Tony in the room and we'll invite Eddie down, and we'll just have him play and see what happens.
Wow.
I said, okay. So Eddie Trunk, I saw him again after that. I said, I would fly out for that.
Sure. Well, I can tell you as a fan, Carmine, that, to me, that was Blue Murder was one of the two most underrated bands from that era. The other one being Badlands, that just were brilliant, but did not just blast off, man. It's crazy how that didn't happen.
Yeah, and I thought that, had all the elements to blast off,
Sure.
But it didn't. But, like right now, I just found out today that Sony in Japan is releasing a Blu-ray 40th anniversary of the Beck, Bogan, and Appice Live in Japan record.
Ooh, cool.
So I just said, well, why don't they release it worldwide? Why just in Japan,
Right.
There's all these BBA fans that would love that.
Sure.
So the funny thing, when we went to Japan with Blue Murder, we had a lot of press, and they, in Burn magazine, which is like a very big rock magazine in Japan, they said Blue Murder, all talking about us. And at the end of the article, I said other great trios of rock: Jimi Hendrix, The Cream, and Beck, Bogan, and Appice. I said, this is funny. I'm in the new cool trio, and I'm in the old cool trio.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Sure, definitely.
So it's just funny now that an English company is re-releasing a Blue Murder CD, anniversary CD, and the Japanese are doing a BBA one at the same time.
Definitely, man. Very cool. Well, Carmine, the new record is simply called King Kobra 2. What am I missing that you want people to know?
Well, I just want them to know that it has a lot of energy, and it's has some really cool songs, and that I think they'll be very surprised how good it is, because I think it's better than the last one. I think it's better than all the King Kobra records, to say the truth.
Very cool. Well, Carmine, as a tradition on the show, we always let the artist pick the closing track. What would you like us to wrap the interview up, and maybe you could tell us a quick story about it?
Okay. Well, let me see. Why don't we close with Deep River? Because, like I said, this was a song that we put together as almost like when we wrote it, there was some accents and fills where Dave said, "Why don't you do these like you did in Blue Murder?"
Sure.
And because it's like sort of like a Blue Murder-ish kind of track,
Mm-hmm.
and the middle section's like a bit like White Snake, a little spacey and everything. And so I said, okay. And when we did it, we put no time limit on it. We just let it run out. And then Paul came up with this idea of this ending, and it goes into the third, which says, "And the church bells are ringing." Then me and Paul actually recorded church bells.
Okay.
And put them in there. So it goes like ding, 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 like for 2 bars.
Cool.
Or 1 bar, whatever it is. Then it slams into a whole different part of the song, which is sort of like a refrain chorus kind of thing.
Sure.
So, but it came out great. And, the mixer, Michael Voss, is an amazing mixer. He did such a great job.
Absolutely.
Great job.
Well, the record definitely sounds incredible, so let's check it out right now. This is brand new King Kobra. This one is called Deep River, right here on your Classic Metal Show.